All right, guys, in this section, we're going to do a little bit more math-based rather than definition. All right. So 1.3, we're measuring segments. Okay. Now, when we're given a number line, we need to refer upon absolute value signs. Okay. So in part one, we have a number line. Okay. It is -6 through 16. And the first question asks us, what is ST? Okay. So here I have my absolute value signs. All right. And now S is -4. Okay. And we will always, always, always subtract. Okay. And so we would subtract that from T. And T is 8. Well, -4 minus 8 is absolute value -12. Well, the absolute value -12 is +12. Okay. All right. Now let's move on. Okay. Here we want to find what UV is. So we have our absolute value bars. U is 10 and V is 14. Okay. 10 minus 14 is -4. Well, we'll take the absolute values of it. And so UV is +4. Okay. Moving on. SV is -4, or S is -4, V is 14. -4 minus 14 is absolute value of -18. Those absolute value signs make it positive. So here we have +18. Okay. Now, part two. We're going to use the segment addition postulate. So segment addition. So we're going to add these two segments together. All right. So if EG, which is this whole line right here, okay, this whole line, if EG is equal to 59, then what are EF and FG? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each line segment, add it to each other, and then set it equal to 59. So I have 8x minus 14 plus 4x plus 1, and then set it equal to 59. Okay? Now, combine our like terms. 8x plus 4x is 12x. -14 plus 1 is -13. Set it equal to 59. Okay? Now we want to add 13 to both sides. So 12x is equal to 72. Now when we solve for x, we'll divide both sides by 12. And 72 divided by 12 is 6. So x is 6, but I'm not done. I want to find what EF and FG are. Okay? So EF is 8 times x. Well, x is 6 minus 14. And FG is 4 times x, which is 6, plus 1. Okay? So EF is 8 times 6, which is 48, minus 14, which is 34. And then FG is 4 times 6, which is 24, plus 1, which is 25. All right. So when numerical expressions have the same value, you say that they are equal. Okay? Hang on, let me grab a pen. So that they are equal. All right? And you give them an equal sign. Well, if two segments have the same length, then the segments are congruent. And the symbol that we use for congruent is basically an equal sign with a worm on the top. This is exactly what it looks like, okay? And then, like, if you look at the bottom here, we have AB and CD, and they're both 1 inch. With these little tick marks, okay, are the notation that tells me that they are, in fact, congruent, okay? Now, moving on to part 3. We want to see if AC and BD are congruent, okay? So let's figure out what AC is. Well, A is -2. C is 3. Okay? So, nope, excuse me, C is 5. C is 5, not 3. C lies within 4 and 6. So -2 minus 5 is equal to -7. And the absolute value -7 is +7. Okay? Now BD. B is 3 and D is 10. So 3 minus 10 is the absolute value -7. Absolute value -7 is 7. So AC and BD are congruent. So we could say that AC is congruent to BD. All right. Now let's do A, B, and DE. So A is -2. B is 3. -2 minus 3 is absolute value -5. That becomes positive, so we have +5. And then D is 10. We subtract that from 14 because E is 14. 10 minus 14 is the absolute value sign of -4. Absolute value makes that positive, so we have 5 and 4. So those two line segments are not congruent. All right. And then the blank of a segment is a point that divides the segment into two congruent segments. A point, line, ray, or other segment that intersects a segment at its midpoint is said to bisect the segment. So the midpoint. And we'll look at what that is in just a second. All right, so in part 4, we're going to use the midpoint. Q is the midpoint, and we want to find what PQ and QR and PR are. All right, so a midpoint divides a line segment into two congruent parts. So this line segment is equal to this line segment. So I'm going to write an equation: 6x minus 7 is equal to 5x plus 1. All right, and now I'm going to add 7 to both sides and then subtract 5x from both sides. So here I have x is equal to 8. Okay, x is equal to 8. Now to find PQ, we do 6 times 8 minus 7. And to find QR, we do 5 times 8 plus 1. All right, we're going back to PQ. 6 times 8 is 48, minus 7 is 41. 5 times 8 is 40, plus 1 is 41. And to find what PR is, you just add those two together. 41 plus 41 is 82. So PR is, in fact, 42. All right, so down here at the bottom, this is just some independent practice for you guys to work on. I want you guys to work on it while you're at home. And then if you have any questions on it, or you want to come ask me any questions, please come see me, and we'll clear it up and go over it if we need to. All right.